Kia ora, good evening. Dunedin police are on the lookout for a woman who went missing from her daughter's home yesterday. Denise Potter disappeared from Carroll Street, Dunedin, around 12:30 yesterday. Denise is described as slim with light brown collar-length hair. She was last seen wearing dark blue jeans, a two-toned black and grey long-sleeve button shirt with white cuffs and no footwear. Police are urging members of the public who may have seen Denise or know where she is to contact the Southern District Command Centre on 03 471 5002. Today saw big changes across a wide range of government policies, from parental leave to an increase in the minimum wage.
As of today, the government rolled out its new initiative, which it says will help New Zealand families to get ahead. The adult minimum wage increased 50 cents today to $14.75 an hour. The national-led government says this 3.5% increase will directly benefit over 115,000 workers and increase wages throughout the economy by $60 million per year. The starting out and training hourly wage will increase to $11.80 an hour, set at 80% of the adult minimum wage. In 2014, the average wage grew at 2.5% compared with inflation of 0.8%. The government said the average wage is expected to increase by $6,500 to over $62,000 by the second half of 2018.
And as well as the minimum wage increase, Kiwi parents can expect to reap the benefits of the government's changes in other areas.
Paid parental leave increased today from 14 weeks to 16 weeks. The national-led government said another increase is expected at the same time next year, which will see parental leave extended to 18 weeks. And parental tax credits saw an increase of $70 per week to $220, as well as an increase in the entitlement period, which moved from 8 weeks to 10 weeks. Working families who are eligible for the minimum family tax credit will receive an after-tax income increase from just under $22,800 to just over $23,000. Looking ahead, more policies designed to help Kiwi parents get ahead will come into effect as of the 1st of July, including free GP visits and prescriptions for children under 13.
And changes to the average ACC levies, benefits and superannuation wrap up the policies coming into force today.
The average ACC work levy paid by employers and those self-employed fell today to 90 cents per $100 of liable earnings, down from 95 cents. This, with the ACC motor vehicle levy decrease in July, will mean Kiwis will be better off by around $480 million over the next 2 years. $1.5 billion in annual ACC levy cuts have been returned to Kiwis by the government since 2012. And annual general adjustment will see a 0.51% increase to benefit rates, student allowances and student loan living costs. Superannuation and veterans' pension payments will increase just over 2%, in line with the government's commitment to maintain the married couple rate at 66% of the average wage. Superannuation has now increased by 31% since April 2008.
It's hoped today's KiwiSaver changes allowing members to access more of their KiwiSaver funds will boost first home property sales in Southland. The new Home Start policy is expected to help around 90,000 first home buyers into the market. It's especially good news for those buying in the south, where more affordable housing coupled with potentially less interest means more affordable repayments.
Prior to today, you could take out, if you've been a member of KiwiSaver for at least 3 years, you could take out your employer contributions, your contributions and any growth that was made, apart from the member tax credits and the $1,000 kickstart. Whereas as at today, you can now take out absolutely everything apart from the $1,000 kickstart that the government's put in there.
There's also another bonus, so the $5,000 that is also available?
Yes, so if you meet the criteria, which basically means you've been paying a certain amount of money into the scheme, and say you've been doing that for 3 years, as long as you meet the purchase price cap, in Southland that's $350,000 and your joint income's under $120,000, then you may be eligible for $3,000, which is free money from the government, from Housing New Zealand. If you've been paying into it for 4 years, potentially you can get $4,000, and 60 months for 5 years, you can potentially get $5,000 of free money from the government. One thing in particular just to be aware of is you can qualify as a second chance buyer which basically means you can't have more than $70,000 in liquid assets, but you can't apply for that Housing New Zealand subsidy whilst you're still on a title on a property. So you'd almost have to sell the property, rent for a while, and then perhaps looking at applying for it. So sometimes there's lots of different scenarios, and that's where you probably need people like us to look at all the different scenarios that are available.
What sort of stimulus do you think this will create in the housing market?
I think it just makes it more achievable for clients, because when you've got a 20% deposit, the banks are a lot more lenient with their rules and criteria. And so a lot more approvals will happen, because if you've got 2 people in KiwiSaver, the prices of property in Southland, you pretty much are going to end up with a 20% deposit. So I think a lot of people like to go into buying a property that they're going to start building up equity a bit more quickly rather than going in with a 10% deposit. So I think a lot of people are waiting for this change, because a matter of, say, 2,000 or 5,000 is all it takes to get them into that 20% bracket. So I think everyone's going to be out there looking at property, and it's a good time for them to look at that option.
Stay with us. Up after the break, a warning to stay visible in the darker months. Which school has the biggest pumpkins? Welcome back. 2013 census results that have been released show fewer people are working long hours. Figures released by Statistics New Zealand show the proportion of employed people working 50 hours or more per week dropped to 20% in 2013. Queenstown Lakes District had the highest proportion of people employed full-time at 62%. Almost 25,500 people were employed either full or part-time in Invercargill in 2013, with 49% of people employed full-time. Southland's main industries working in 2013 were agriculture, forestry and mining at 20%, manufacturing at 13%, followed by healthcare and social assistance at 9%. The shoulder season often brings with it more difficulty with driving conditions, with dewy mornings, sunstrike and potential frosts. It's the time of year when visibility on the roads is crucial, especially for school children. Drivers may be distracted by driving conditions, and students are encouraged to make themselves more visible to motorists as daylight savings comes to an end.
A lot of the school uniforms are also dark colours, which is sort of goes against, especially in Southland. We've got the shorter days, darker mornings, darker evenings. So, I think even taking an option of a bright coloured jacket for the children, bright pinks. There's a lot of cool jackets out there that are bright.
And for motorists themselves, misty windows in the morning at this time of year, visibility does become tricky.
Yeah, it does. And I think a lot of people don't realise, the motorist is maybe distracted by that, and you might be walking down the road in a black jacket, and you think you can be seen because, of course, you're in your own area, your own zone. But the driver often can't. And also think about truck drivers, people like that sit up higher in a cab. All those other things that could be distracting the driver at the time, and he just doesn't recognise you because you're blending into the background.
What is the general rule of thumb of when to turn lights on and when not to?
Well, I have mine on every day, even summertime.
School holidays coming up at Easter time?
Yeah, Easter holidays is a big thing too. If you're travelling, getting on the road, just remember that you're sharing the road perhaps with people who aren't familiar to our roads. They're also travelling into different areas. A lot more drink driving over holidays, which is, sad to think of. Wearing correct seatbelts, those sort of things. A lot of things. Get your vehicle checked before you go onto a drive, especially now coming up, the weather's sort of unpredictable, so you don't know what's coming ahead. You can also do road checks by going through 0800 highway just to check ahead if you're going up into, say, Milford or into the outer areas.
Schools around Southland have been digging in and getting their hands dirty for the Gardens and Schools program this year. Over the past 5 years, the Invercargill Sunrise Rotary Club has built gardens and schools to give children a taste of maintaining, harvesting and eating their own garden and vegetables. Tisbury School is just one of the schools involved in the program after being gifted seeds, plants, fencing and everything else they needed to begin their horticultural adventure. Today, the Rotary Club visited all the schools to find out how gardens were progressing and to find out which school has been growing the biggest pumpkin as part of the vegetable growing competition.
Well, we're basically measuring the weight of the pumpkin and the diameter of the pumpkin, then the best all-round garden. So that's just looking at the variety of plants planted and just the neatness, tidiness, and those sort of nice things in rows and growth and the like. So yeah, but we're concentrating on the diameter and the weight.
And how has the competition been today?
Well, this is the third school this morning, and boy, really impressed with the enthusiasm of the kids and the involvement. Every school's had really, really good involvement across the virtually every child in the school just about. So yeah, really good.
What kind of skills do you think the kids take away from something like this?
Well, the messages we're getting are around just working together, working with kids that they wouldn't normally play with perhaps, and just getting that community involvement, because as you see at Tisbury here, there's parents involved as well, and they've been selling to the community, so it's the whole regime about learning for inquiry as well, and just getting a community involvement I think has been pretty important.
I brought the tyres to the school and I've helped plant some of the plants, and yeah.
And how are the vegetables looking?
Very good.
Digging up worms, digging up lots of things, digging up plants, digging up potatoes.
And what kind of vegetables have you grown?
Peas, spuds, strawberries, pumpkins. The hardest bit was digging up all the stuff
And why was it so difficult?
because all the roots were not, that they were digging into the ground. Dug up the spuds and planted the pumpkins in there.
And what part did you love the most about doing it?
Planting.
And of course, eating them must be fun too. Right, time to look at the weather now.
Nominations are open for the 2015 Southland Environment Awards. This year marks the 20th year of the awards, and Environment Southland wants to hear about anyone who's making a difference in our region. Individuals, schools, farmers, community groups and businesses. If that's you or someone you know, get an entry form and let's recognise and celebrate these environmental achievers. Entries close May 1st. Contact Environment Southland for details today.
And taking a look at the weather for today, Wednesday the 1st of April. Around the country, Auckland coming in on the high today of 22 degrees, 18 for Wellington, 19 for Christchurch, 20 in Dunedin, 17 shared by Queenstown and Gore today, 16 for Invercargill and Stewart Island on 14 degrees at 3 o'clock today. Cloud increasing tomorrow and evening coastal rain developing, some heavy falls possible. Northwesterlies becoming strong in exposed places, then changing lighter to southerlies about the coast in the evening. Invercargill looking for a high of 21 tomorrow, along with Tuatapere, 20 for Gore. And 20 for Te Anau and 21 for Nightcaps. To the marine forecast for FOVO, there's a gale warning in force, northwest 25 knots to 35 knots, southwest swell of 3 metres, very rough sea in the south. And for Pusaga, also a gale warning in force, northwest 35 to 45 knots, southwest swell 3 metres to northwest 2 metres, sea becoming high in the south. And looking ahead to the long-range forecast, on Friday becoming fine in the morning and light winds turning northerly. Scattered rain developing on Saturday, northwesterlies turning southwest with a few showers, and on Easter Sunday becoming fine with southwesterlies dying out. And that's it from the news desk tonight. Sport is along next from us. Good evening.